Discord's Time Travel Trip by Hotel Chicken. Listen to your elders. Discord loved to enjoy the smaller things in life. Specifically, he liked shrinking down ponies and watching them run around an ant farm while being chased by gummy worms. It wasn't something he did often, but the glass case was a good distraction for him as he tried to come up with new chaotic ideas. Things like chocolate rain didn't just pop out of nowhere, even if they did technically pop out of nowhere. There was a method to the madness, a purpose for each singing book and jumping teapot. Not that any of the ponies actually appreciated it, of course. They were too busy screaming to enjoy the unsubtle beauty of a flying pig. But at least he would enjoy the runaway pianos and other chaotic creations he made. If only there was some other creature who understood his twisted tastes. A connoisseur of chaos who would properly enjoy the entropy. Something like, what was that word ponies used? The one that usually made him feel sick? Fried rice? No, not that. But something close. Fingers? Fiddlesticks? Fish sticks?
Oh, now there's an idea,
he said, snapping his talons to warp a bundle of sticks into a floundering wooden fish.
Not my best work,
he observed, stroking his beard as he idly tried to think of new chaotic creations. His creative contemplation was brought to a grinding halt as he felt a wave of harmony ripple across Equestria.
Well, that certainly can't be good.
Snapping his talons, Discord appeared inside a tree as 6 colorful ponies hugged. 6 colorful ponies that certainly should not have been colorful and should have been hating each other. Alright, so plan A to destroy their friendship failed. Not a problem, he just needed to move to plan B. As soon as he thought of one. Usually he would have just teleported away and said it was a problem for future Discord, but...
Oh, that's an idea.
He grinned, teleporting back to his throne in Ponyville as he waited for the 6 ponies to trot back. Sitting in Fluttershy's cottage, Discord poured his friend a cup of tea as she regaled him with a story of her younger years. Apparently, some foal named Ocean Breeze, he'd remember that for later, bullied her and Dash into sneaking into the Rainbow Factory at night. There was something about a rumor involving blood and rainbow water or whatever. A bit too gruesome for his tastes, but still a cute story. He would have loved to hear the end of it if he wasn't rudely teleported against his will. Blinking out of a confused daze, Discord looked around the chaotic oil painting that was once Ponyville. Odd. He didn't remember doing that recently. That was something the old him would do.
Hey there, you handsome Draconicus!
A younger version of himself bragged, looping an arm around Discord's neck as he pulled him into a rather awkward embrace.
Come here often? Oh, well, aren't you a sight for sore eyes?
He grinned, holding out a hand to his young reflection.
Discord, you?
The younger copy eagerly accepted his hand with an olive branch.
Discord, I must say you don't look a day over tomorrow. Why, thank you. You look good for your age too. Oh, you flatter me. I do my best.
Are they hitting on each other?
Rainbow Dash asked, causing the duo Discords to look at the main 6.
Oh wow, you all here too?
Future Discord grinned before a look of worried realization washed over him.
Oh no, you're all here too. Oh, there's...
He hissed through his teeth as he tugged on the grey hairs at the bottom of his neck.
This is really awkward. So what year is it? Who cares? Time's irrelevant to us anyways.
The young Discord dismissed.
But if I'm right, it's the last day that they'll be a problem. Oh, you have no idea.
Discord muttered as his handsome twin from the past began to monologue.
See, Twilight, I have my own friends. After all, no pony knows me better than myself. Plus, he already knows how to beat all of you, and I don't even need to raise a paw to help. I can just sit back and wait for my turn in a few years. So, what's first?
He asked, turning to the future Discord with a hopeful smile.
I'm thinking balloon animals and jelly. Any thoughts?
Do you really think we'll let you get away with this, Discord?
Twilight asked, stepping forward as she proudly held her head up high.
Get away? Twilight, look at us. I've already won. Now, let's start with getting rid of those, shall we?
With a snap of his talons, the younger Discord stole the elements and hit them all across Equestria. For a total of 5 seconds before a second snap brought them back.
Actually, we don't win.
The older Discord corrected, earning an equally shocked look from the gathered mares and Draconicus.
Did you just bring the elements back?
His younger self asked stupidly.
I did. On any other day, I'd probably love to stick around and play jump rope with the timeline, but I need to get back to Fluttershy's for tea. Oh, that reminds me. Fluttershy, dear, how does the Rainbow Factory story end? I was on the edge of my seat 2 years from now.
Fluttershy, being unused to a god of chaos staring at her like a puppy, decided to hide behind Rainbow Dash's back as her friend took a defensive stance between them.
What the heck are you talking about, Discord? How do you know that story?
Rainbow demanded.
Well, duh. Friends tell friends stories, of course.
Wait, we become friends? With you?
Rainbow yelled.
For once, I actually agree with what's-her-face.
The present Discord agreed.
Rainbow Dash, and you already know her name. The joke's stale at this point, at least for me anyway.
What the heck's going on here? Applejack asked, shaking the purple pony out of her stupor as Discord drew them all into a group hug.
Why, Applejack, do I really need to spell it out for you? We're the best of friends in my timeline.
You made me fall in love with a rock, you brute!
Rarity protested.
You made me a no-good liar.
Applejack added on.
Well,
Fluttershy stuttered before Twilight teleported them all out of his grasp.
Girls, keep your heads straight. This is clearly just another one of his tricks.
Oh, Twilight, you wound me. Do I really look like a bad guy? Yes.
His younger self seethed.
Because we are the bad guy. We cause chaos and have fun. We don't listen to Feli's gossip about rainbows or hack ponies. What happened to you? You used to be cool, and now you're one of them? I am, and you will too. At least if I can fix this little time travel hiccup.
Discord said as he pulled out a broken clock and gave it a light shake.
Hold it!
Pinkie Pie yelled, earning every pony and Draconicus' attention as she glared at the older Discord.
If you're really our friend, then what's my favorite color?
The younger Discord rolled his eyes.
Oh, please, even I could guess that. It's every color.
Future Discord answered, causing Pinkie Pie to gasp before she wrapped her hoofs around his neck.
Yes! I have a time travel friend from the future! I'm so going to abuse this for my own personal gain!
You won't, because I will never be your friend.
The younger Discord refused, snapping his talons to tear the elements away from the 6 mares. His older copy brought them back with a snap of his own, causing the duo to fall into a tug of war with reality, constantly snapping the elements on and off the gathered mares.
I can do that all day, you know. As can I. Besides, I know how this ends. Endings are always so predictable. I prefer something a little more chaotic.
A snap was the only warning the future Discord had before a stone statue of himself fell on top of him.
Really? Using the same trick twice? Now look who's predictable.
He groaned, quietly noting the sound of several cracks breaking through his old prison.
Free at last.
The stoned Discord was free for all of 3 seconds before Discord snapped him back to stone.
Sorry, this story is already confusing enough as it is. And I need to get back to hear the rest of Fluttershy's story. Over my stoned body? Well, aren't you just full of bright ideas today?
The future Discord grinned, disappearing as a wave of rainbows crested over the horizon. His past self watched in dread as a friendship laser came barreling towards him.
Oh, right, I kind of forgot about them.
Reappearing in the present, Discord sat down in his favorite chair as Fluttershy wrapped up her story. It seemed like he only missed a second or two, and Fluttershy was more than willing to continue despite the interruption.
And that's when Zephyr started to have a crush on Rainbow Dash.
My, I never would have guessed that. Of course, I couldn't expect anything less from my brave little friend.
Discord bragged, earning a light blush from Fluttershy as she sipped her tea.
By the way, where did you go a few minutes ago?
Oh, nowhere special. I was just reliving old memories is all. Speaking of memories, do you remember the day we met?
A bit. It's a little fuzzy at the end though. Princess Celestia said the elements stole a lot of our energy. I can't really remember anything after we were about to, you know.
Maybe a rather pretty bird nest?
Sorry about that.
But don't be silly. I'll admit back then I was pretty hard to get along with. I certainly wasn't the reasonable creature I am today, and I just remembered how much I owe you and Celestia. I really wouldn't be here if it weren't for you two.
Oh, but you did a lot of the work, Discord. You made it here through your own effort.
Discord couldn't help but chuckle at that as he ate his teacup.
Oh, you have no idea.
Hello and welcome back to Common Time as Visual Pony, where I will once again remind you that you can support Pony and Wolf Productions through the links down in the description below. Every dollar helps is needed and very much appreciated. And now let's get into the meat of the story. Okay, so as you will see tomorrow, I did not actually, preview this story before narrating it. I only saw the little short thingy, the little short description of it. And I loved it. Because just the idea of future Discord meeting past Discord, that's a thing. Stuff like that has been explored in many series. And I personally would love to have the ability, to go back in time and meet my younger self. For example, just to tell him, you know what? That YouTube thing? Maybe start earlier. Because believe it or not, even before Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, and all of those guys were saying, I wanted to do a gameplay channel. And that never happened, sadly, because I was discouraged by my old man. He even, when I started doing this stuff here, made a lot of fun of me, and his words were, and I quote, "Don't talk to me about this until you've made your first $100. He expected that to never happen. Then, soon after, I showed him a printout from my bank account that basically earned me exactly $100 in YouTube ad revenue. That was funny. But in terms of this story here, it's just good. It's just funny and random. I like it. I've added it to my favorites, actually. And I hope you did too. The link to the author's page will be down in the description as always. And, give the author some love. Consider supporting Pony and Wolf. And I will see you in the next video and hope that this video finds you well in body and mind. Luna Makes Toast by Overlord Flinks. Toast.
Salutations, my beloved sister Luna. I left this note here for you because, well, you looked so very at peace curled up against your pillow. You even had that little bit of drool at the corner of your lip. You know the one. The one you get when you have flighty dreams and so. I digress. It would have been a crime to have woken you up when you seemed so happy sleeping in. Regardless, I left this note to inform you on a few details for your day since I won't be able to tell you myself. Working the morning hours of the castle is no easy task, I remind you. Yet I have faith you will not falter. Check that the sun is aligned. Perform an alert check on the royal guards. Add a new layer to the magic barrier around the castle. Make sure that Ponyville's reports are properly organized for future viewing. Check if the changelings have finished making that statue of Queen Chrysalis flipping the bird at our castle. Do 50 wing-ups. Eat a hearty breakfast. That will cover the morning duties for you. I wish you the best of luck, sister. Also, be warned, due to lack of foresight, I allowed the morning chef the day off today. If I had remembered he would be eating breakfast, I would have asked him to take his day off another day. However, I have faith in you, sister. That is why I've put a sandwich in the fridge for you. Just take it out and eat that. Love, Celestia.
Celestia. How little faith did she have? Written on her very stationery in her personal ink, and with her informal voicing she had indirectly as well as directly insulted her only sister. Luna, Princess of the Night and ruler of all that was dark, had been slapped upon the cheek from her elder sister.
Just take it out and eat that? She should have just wrote, I know you can't cook worth a buck, so I made you something so simple, even you can't mess it up.
Such little faith. But she would show her sister that she was not to be underestimated. Luna stormed down the halls of Canterlot Castle, purpose echoing along with each clap of her naked hoofs against the dull carpet flooring. Guard after guard she passed shot a proud salute with their hoof to head or wing to snout as need be. Aside from an informal nod from Luna herself, she gave little acknowledgement to the actions offered to her. She had a mission, a quest, one that was awaiting her at the end of the hall, through the double doors. The kitchen doors flew open with Luna's magic, keeping them agape for her arrival. Heads would have turned and mouth would have let out gasps at the mere sight of such a rarity. However, not a soul was even there, which, admittedly, Luna felt a bit let down by.
Yes, my entrance need not have spectators anyway, she grumbled to herself with a root of embarrassment brought to her. Nay, have I even ventured out from my dwelling to cast looms of powers upon subjects in honesty. Truth, I have ventured into the bowels of the culinary fortress on a greater errand.
Luna took a soft few steps to the side of the kitchen counter, locating there a supply of bread.
To prove mine own sister a fool!
Her eyes set upon the soft, perfectly sliced loaves of bread resting upon the firm surface of the cutting board. Not a single slice was cut too wide or uneven. Each perfectly made and allowed to fall gingerly over the other as the source of the loaves remained bouncy and giving at the base of the collection. Luna studied these slices carefully, being ever so sure to not have any take her by surprise. This was her realm now, and these layers of baked wheat chunks would bow to her will.
Hold! In what manner did that limerick Lord Pipsqueak bestowed upon me go again?
Luna mused a thought to herself, trying to recall the lesson Pipsqueak had taught her.
When you got a hankering to be fat, all you need is a sweet slice of bread. With this recipe you can always boast, because with it you can make some toast. Just remember the recipe I said. Dastard! There was no recipe in that poem!
Luna cursed to the high heavens.
I shall need to improvise.
Looking about her collective of bread slices, she absorbed her surroundings in. Though Pip's poem offered her little, it did give her an idea. Toast, yes, the most basic form of alchemy. The art of taking one thing and manipulating it through dark means to turn it into a new and vastly altered construct. If she could pull this off, Celestia would no doubt have to take back her rude inclination. Luna took a slice of bread against her horn, impaling it at the crust before looking about the kitchen.
To where has the royal chef placed the... Aha!
Luna cut herself off as she spotted her desired target.
The alchemy device!
The toaster, as the commoners called it. Luna scraped her horn against the slot of the toaster and loaded her piece of bread into it as carefully as she could. She had seen that contraption burn even the hardest of tarts to a golden brown. She did not dare trifle with it for long. But this was important. Luna assessed the slice of bread over more, making sure it was just right inside the toaster's slot. Once she was sure, she clipped her hoof against the tap on the side, sending that brave, lone piece of bread into the depths of the device's coiling heat. Waiting. Luna did not blink once, watching as the dark slot of the toaster seared red with heat building up within it. Alchemy was such an interesting process, and yet it was also a long one. Surely, if Luna, Princess of the Night, blustered the power of the toaster, it would produce twice as much toast from the single slice of bread. Such was simple logic with magic. Thus, Luna sparked the hue of darkness from her horn and aimed a light twinkle to the heating toaster. Just enough. You just couldn't eat the sandwich, could you? Celestia, ruler of Equestria, sighed as she stood over the crumbled, charred remains of her throne room. The mass of Canterlot guards hustled from one side of the obliterated castle to the other, unsure of what they could even do as every brick laid in ruin with layers of black crust marked over every inch of them. The only body other than Celestia that was not overlooking the damage was Princess Luna as she stood beside her sister, munching on the fruits of her victory. "And thou said I could nae make breakfast on my own." Luna scoffed in victory, enjoying the taste of a flaky piece of toast against her mouth. Hello and welcome back to another comment time with Visual Pony, where I will remind you that you can support Pony and Wolf Productions through the links down in the description below, or you could become a channel member to get exclusive download links of everything that we have produced here. Every dollar helps is needed and very much appreciated, and by the way, there's also a link to a merch store down there. Okay, let me just tell you, really, seriously, every dollar is needed and very much appreciated because, money is tight. I know it's like that for everyone, but it would be really cool if, you at least considered it, or if you have not already, at least that this would be the day where we earn your subscription. Because there's a little red button down under the video. If you see it, then you haven't clicked it yet, and that means you're not subscribed. Please subscribe, because according to Google Analytics, there are over 80% of you that do not actually subscribe to this channel. Why? What's wrong? Am I not nice enough? Anyhow, let's get into the meat of this story. Okay, I can kind of emphasize with Luna here, you want to make stuff on your own, and you want to be able to do stuff, and then suddenly someone basically puts the soup in front of you while you wanted to make soup, or in her case, makes you a sandwich, even though you are 100% certain you can do it on your own. I know that feeling. When I was growing up, my dad didn't trust me with anything. So instead of, maybe putting me into a cooking course, which by the way, I did later on my own, I chose to do home studies, like cooking lessons in school. He was completely against it. He would have loved it if I had chosen French. I didn't want French. So I learned to cook that way. But before that, he wouldn't, pay money for someone to teach me cooking or teach me cooking himself. No, instead he would literally stock all the cupboards with ready meals, microwave meals, and cans and all that stuff. And by the way, nowadays he complains if I go ahead and buy myself a can of soup or some ready meals, because sometimes, right now I'm still living alone and it doesn't make sense. So eventually I did actually go ahead and try to cook, because those ready meals were okay, they were tasty for the most part. But, you want to be able to do stuff yourself. And I can kinda understand Luna's disposition here, because you cannot imagine how happy I was the first time I produced something edible. So with that said, I hope that you enjoyed this. and that you will be here for the next video. As always, I hope that this video finds you well in body and mind, and with this, I'm signing off. That by James Pfill.
Phew, and that's everything.
Twilight smiled as she looked upon her work. The contents of her saddlebag all neatly laid out on her table in the golden oak. They'd been organized when they went in, and now they were organized upon their return. A satisfied nod from the mare was followed by the expected lighting up of her horn, as she levitated each and every object back to its appropriate place. Spike watched, looking over their list of chores for the day, before glancing up to his lifelong friend.
So, how big was he, the dragon?
Twilight looked out of the nearby window, towards the mountain they'd all just come down from.
He was really big, Spike. Imagine the town hall, only twice as tall, at least.
Spike gulped.
Gee, sounds terrifying.
Then he pondered that, looking down to his comparatively tiny body.
Think I'll get that big one day?
Twilight smiled to him, walking over and giving him a friendly pat on the head.
Not for a very long time, my little friend.
The two laughed together over that, but before either of them could say anything else, they were kept from doing so by the sound of some pony knocking on their door. Turning to it, Twilight arched an eyebrow.
Huh, who could that be?
She trotted over. Spike closed behind and opened her door, after which she smiled when she realized who had come over to visit.
Fluttershy, hello!
The frequently meek Pegasus mare smiled back to her.
Hello, Twilight. I hope I'm not interrupting.
Twilight shook her head, taking a step to the side to allow her friend entry.
Not at all. Please come in.
Fluttershy gave a quick bow of her head, showing her appreciation, before entering the library in earnest. Twilight, after closing the door behind her, looked over to Spike.
Would you mind getting some tea, Spike?
The young dragon gave her a dutiful salute before heading off for the kitchen, leaving the two mares alone.
Well, quite an adventure we had, eh?
Twilight remarked. Fluttershy giggled.
You could say that. I hope Mr. Dragon found someplace else he could sleep.
Twilight waved her off.
Oh, I'm sure he's fine. Dragons are pretty tough after all.
A sly smirk came to her.
Unless they're facing you, apparently.
Fluttershy blushed, but she and Twilight turned together to see Spike re-entering the room, complete with the tea that had been requested. Setting it on the table, he offered cups to the two mares, who graciously accepted them, before taking one of his own. All three of them, at least for a time, contented themselves on the enjoyable taste of their drinks. But after a while, Twilight looked to her unexpected guest with some curiosity.
So, what brings you over? I wasn't expecting you here today.
Fluttershy thought on that, then looked to her magical friend.
Well, I was wondering about something. Something you mentioned before we left for the mountain.
Twilight raised an eyebrow.
Oh? What?
Fluttershy looked over her shoulder to the window.
Before we left, you were going over the maps that led us there, and you mentioned one spot that we really didn't want to go to. You said we needed to avoid that.
After a pause, she looked back to Twilight.
What was that place? What was that?
Twilight giggled.
That's what you're curious about?
Fluttershy nodded.
Oh, certainly. I mean, we were facing a dragon, Twilight. A big, fearsome, fire-breathing dragon that would have probably wanted to cook us if I hadn't stopped him. Yet that was no issue for any of you to go and face. So what could have been on that map that you wouldn't have wanted to face? What could have been worse than facing a dragon?
Thinking on that, Twilight nodded back, understanding her friend's request.
Ah, I can certainly see the confusion. Well, that was just the pit of horror.
She took a sip of her tea and apparently had not noticed Fluttershy's reaction to that declaration, because when she glanced back up, she saw her friend's pupils had shrunk to pinpoints.
What?
Fluttershy had been utterly paralyzed by the mere mention of such a name, yet she still mustered enough courage to get her words out.
The Pit of Horrors?
Twilight nodded.
That's right. You haven't heard of it?
When she saw Fluttershy shake her head, she continued.
Well, it's basically a big hole that used to be owned by a stallion from way back when, Mr. Horror? He was trying to make a mine at the time.
Instantly, Fluttershy relaxed.
Oh, I see. So the person who made it was called Horror? There's no actual horrors in it?
Twilight giggled.
No, certainly not.
The two shared a laugh together, continuing their tea for a time before Twilight continued.
Well, not unless you count the decades-old curse that's on it.
Again, Fluttershy halted.
What? The curse? The one that Mr. Horror had such a bad time with? I'd have thought that was pretty famous around here.
Fluttershy shrank back a bit.
Maybe. You mean there's a scary old curse out there just beyond Ponyville? Like from an evil sorcerer?
Twilight looked out to her with confusion, then once more understood where she was going.
Oh, you mean... No, Fluttershy. It's just a really dirty word that was written on a wood sign in that area. You know, a profanity.
As before, Fluttershy sighed, feeling relaxed yet again.
Goodness, you nearly gave me a heart attack, Twilight. I'd have thought it was much worse.
Another laugh from Twilight.
Yeah, I can see that, but you really shouldn't get so worked up. Unless you were, say, actively trying to look for the cold killers out there, you've got nothing to worry about.
Cue Fluttershy pausing as expected.
What? The cold killers? You know, the herbs that's said to help cure the common cold? But which really causes a big allergic reaction in ponies?
A sigh from Fluttershy, and a long one at that.
Phew. I swear everything about this place just seems so harmless so far.
Twilight looked to her with a smile and a nod.
It certainly does.
She then brought her cup to her lips, ready to take another sip of her tea, only to suddenly remember what it was she was going to tell her back in the first place.
Oh, except for the pony-eating great old one that lives in the area. Sluggish Maggoth, I think it's called.
Fluttershy, who was about 110% done with all this, just took a deep breath, then exhaled.
Twilight? Yes, Fluttershy? I thought you said the Pit of Horrors has no horrors in it? It doesn't. The monster just lives next to it, not in it. Please just tell me about ancient cosmic pony-eating abominations before all the other things next time, okay?
Blinking a couple of times, Twilight nonchalantly took her final sip of tea.
Okay.
Spike, glancing from one mare to the other, smirked a little before gulping down the last of his own drink.
Well, this was nice, right?
Okay everyone, this is once again Comment Time with Visual Pony, where I will remind you that you can support Pony and Wolf Productions through the links down in the description below. Every dollar helps is needed and very much appreciated, and I mean that. Oh god. Talk about a few fake outs here, and then at the end it's Sluggish Maggoth as the pony eating terror thingy that lives not in the cave but next to it. Okay, I'll take it. I love it. This story gets an upvote. Come on, guys. I like it. I really do. And as always, I hope that this video finds you well in body and mind, and that you will be here for the next one. Timeout Tuesday by Majin Sieko. Timeout for a second. The sound of guavas ricocheting off the floor pierced the awkward silence that formed when Starlight Glimmer entered the threshold of the kitchen and laid her eyes on a most terrifying sight. Twilight Sparkle and Chrysalis, disgraced queen of the changelings, having tea. Starlight's first instinct upon witnessing such a sight was to vaporize the entire kitchen, because that's a problem solving. But she paused, figuring that Chrysalis would probably be able to shield herself from such a blast. Plus, Chrysalis didn't immediately attack her upon her entrance. Chrysalis stole a sip of tea, keeping her eyes trained on Starlight, while Twilight sat there, absorbed in what appeared to be shock, both with bated breath. Starlight's gaze bounced between Twilight and Chrysalis as she formulated a plan to deal with the current situation. An idea formed in her mind. It wasn't the best plan, but it was the best she could do now that she lost the element of surprise. She inhaled.
What's going on?
Both Twilight and Chrysalis exhaled deeply and took measured sips.
For a second there,
Twilight said with a giggle.
I thought we were going to blow up the kitchen.
I was. Twilight sucked her teeth.
Well, good job on not immediately relying on magic to solve your problems.
Yeah, Starlight said.
I figured that maybe you captured Chrysalis.
She smiled.
And now you're showing her mercy like you did me.
Chrysalis took a long sip of her tea.
No, I'm here of my own free will.
A chill ran through Starlight's spine as a cerulean glow possessed her horn, her eyes glowing to the size of saucers.
Sam Pony, please tell me what's going on because I don't feel particularly safe right now. Oh, that's easy. It's Timeout Tuesday.
Spike walked past Twilight, put a plate of scones on the table. Chrysalis and Twilight each grabbing one, then sat in a vacant chair himself.
Timeout Tuesday?
The glow vanished from Starlight's horn as she looked at Twilight.
What's Timeout Tuesday? Timeout Tuesday?
Twilight explained as she took a bite out of her scone.
These are really good, Spike. Simply delectable,
Chrysalis said, having taken a bite of her own. Spike poured himself a cup of tea, grabbed a scone and bit into it.
Yeah, it tastes like I really outdid myself this.
Shut up about the scones!
Starlight clenched her jaw.
What's Timeout Tuesday?
Another sip of tea found its way into Chrysalis's throat.
Well, Starlight, Timeout Tuesday is when Twilight and I put our differences aside and take solace in the fact that we're both world citizens.
Starlight glared at Chrysalis, then looked at Spike and Twilight, who gave nods of agreement.
And now you, I guess.
Chrysalis took another bite out of her scone. Chrysalis looked at Twilight, who nodded, then back at Twilight.
Would you, like to join us? Hold on a second.
Starlight raised a hoof.
Does this mean that the whole you kidnapping Alpha Equestrian royalty and replacing them thing was done with their consent?
Twilight sipped her tea.
No, she legitimately usurped us and I'm still very cross with her about it. The most cross,
Chrysalis confirmed.
She let me know at the start of today's visit. Yeah,
Spike said as he spread clotted cream on his scone.
I remember Twilight specifically saying, Chrysalis, I didn't appreciate you kidnapping me and nearly everyone I care about. And Chrysalis was like, yeah, well, suck it up, what's today's variety of tea? And Twilight said,
Starlight cut Spike off with a grunt.
This sounds really crazy.
She rubbed her face.
Like, just inherently insane. You realize that, right?
Chrysalis, Spike, and Twilight stopped what they were doing to exchange a glance. Then all stare at Twilight.
Starlight Glimmer?
Twilight said.
As my student, I thought you'd understand the purpose of Timeout Tuesday. I'm sorry, Twilight, but I don't.
Starlight exhaled.
I don't understand the purpose of willingly inviting someone who kidnapped you and all of your friends and put you in pots.
Her breathing grew shallower.
I don't understand how you can simply share a table with someone who kidnapped and impersonated your sister-in-law in an attempt to annex Canterlot.
Starlight's pupils widened.
And I certainly don't understand how you can simply sip tea with someone who tried to kill Thorax. Speaking of Thorax,
Chrysalis interjected as she turned to face Twilight.
Seeing what he turned into was probably a subconscious factor in turning down Starlight's offer for reform.
Twilight sipped again.
Yeah, I could see that.
Twilight flexed a wing.
It's hard having to deal with changes to your body. I'm right here,
Starlight said before she groaned. She then put a hoof to her chest and composed herself.
Look, you three seem to be getting along splendidly right now, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah, Spike said as he took a bite out of his creamed scone. Twilight took another bite as well.
Everyone gets along on Timeout Tuesday.
Another grunt escaped from Starlight's throat.
So how about instead of Timeout Tuesday, you call it a permanent timeout?
Chrysalis chortled.
If we called it a permanent timeout, I'd never be able to exact my revenge on you. And I'm still rather cross with her,
Twilight added. Starlight's breath quickened as she glanced between Chrysalis, Spike, and Twilight.
Then how can you stand to sit across from each other?
Spike looked at Starlight.
Because it's timeout.
Starlight screamed at the top of her lungs and stormed out of the kitchen, the three of them staring at her.
Well, that was rather rude of her,
Chrysalis said, taking another bite out of her scone.
She just came in here, made a mess with all of these guavas, insulted our tradition, then left in a huff.
Twilight sipped on her tea.
Yeah, she was acting like it was Furious Friday.
The three of them shared a chuckle at that comment. Everyone liked Furious Friday more than Timeout Tuesday. Hello, and once again I will welcome you to Common Time with Visual Pony, and remind you that every dollar helps, is needed and very much appreciated, and you can support us through the links down in the description below. Don't forget, every dollar is needed, helps, and is very much appreciated. Okay, now, wow, let's get into this. This was just a mindfuck for me. Just Twilight and Chrysalis just sitting there and having a talk while drinking tea. I mean, just imagine this situation in our world. That would be as if, let's say, I don't know, Kim Jong-un and Joe Biden sat in a room having tea with one another, and then Angela Merkel walks in and is like, what the hell is going on here? You know? It's, I don't quite understand it. I don't have a good analogy for this, but I like it. So I also like the idea of Timeout Tuesday. I really do like the idea of Timeout Tuesday, because that would be very interesting. And I can kinda see it happen, because, you see, Twilight and Chrysalis both, I think, would go for this. So Chrysalis might likely just do it to, you know, backstab Twilight in some way, shape, or form. But it would still be hilarious. Just Timeout Tuesday or Furious Friday. Guys, I love it. And with this, I'm signing off. Sincerely yours, Visual Pony. And as always, I hope that this video finds you well in body and mind. Twilight Finds a Book of Puns by Troll. Well, this is awkward.
Well, this is interesting.
Twilight's horn glowed as she pulled a dusty old book out of one of the shelves. Stuck all the way in the corner of the library, the shelf wasn't used much, and the books weren't usual read either. However, Twilight had read mostly all of the books in the library, including all the new ones that had just come in the day before. This book was dusty, and Twilight had never seen it before. She blew on the cover, pushing a sheet of dust off of it and revealing the title.
The Equestrian Dictionary of Puns?
She said, brushing off the book of any remaining dust. The book was large, almost the size of the normal dictionary, and it had pages filled with spaced-out puns. Twilight delved into the book, opening to the first page and reading quickly. By the time it was noon, she had already finished the entire book. Inside her head, puns bounced around, covering her mind. She looked around, and every object she saw was now an object of pun. Looking at the clock, she saw that it was about noontime and that she had promised to meet her friends near the fountain in the central square. Placing the book back into the shelf, she trotted out of the library and toward the fountain. Hey girls! Called Twilight, trotting up to her group of friends as they waited for her by the fountain.
Hey Twilight, how's it going?
Said Rainbow Dash, stopping her conversation with Applejack.
It's not too bad,
said Twilight, staring at the fountain behind them.
What are you up to? Nothing much. We were actually just planning to go by the beach a couple of minutes outside of Ponyville. Want to come? I'd love to, as long as it doesn't take a mile to get there. What? Nothing.
The ponies all agreed that going to the beach would be the best idea on such a hot day, so they began their trek. They trotted through Ponyville, going through the central square that was bustling with ponies. Applejack decided to stop and buy an apple for a snack.
One apple, please,
said Applejack, sliding one bit to the pony behind the stand. She came back with 2 apples, even though the sign said that it was 1 bit per apple. Applejack picked the apples one at a time, eating one whole right as she took it off the stand.
I thought that each apple was 1 bit. How did you get 2?
Said Rarity as Applejack chewed on her apple.
She must be an insider in the apple business,
chimed Twilight. Applejack swallowed her apple.
Well, that's right. Us here apple-growing folks are in the business together, which means discounts.
Rarity nodded.
It's nothing like that in the fashion business. That's probably because it's so competitive. Every fashion designer wants their competitor's store to close. I suppose you're right, Twilight.
Twilight frowned. None of her friends were picking up on her brilliant use of puns. She had to up the usage, and fast, if she wanted the dictionary to be of any use to her. The ponies exited Ponyville and entered a forest filled with tall trees that were spaced out just enough as to allow the sunlight to come through.
Would you look at this? Leave it to nature to make paths like this beautiful,
said Twilight, looking around at everything around her.
I'm not so fond of these ferns, but that's oak, because if ye look around, the trees spruce things up. Twilight, stop using puns,
said Rainbow Dash.
You've noticed?
Said Twilight, a smile coming to her face.
We've all noticed, Twilight,
said Applejack.
And it's annoying. Sorry,
said Twilight, putting a sheepish smile.
I didn't know you weren't a fan of my pleasantry.
Applejack groaned.
Well, stop making bad jokes, Twilight.
Sorry, I've got them rooted in my brain. If you're going to tell jokes, tell them later. Right now we need to focus on getting to the beach,
said Rainbow Dash.
But Rainbow Dash, there's no time for rest. I can't save these jokes for later.
Twilight let out a small giggle as Rainbow Dash rolled her eyes.
Twilight, even I don't think these are funny,
said Pinkie Pie.
Yes, Twilight, please stop these bad jokes,
said Rarity.
I see your sycamore puns, but I hope you stick around because they're just blooming and I'm licking them.
Twilight broke out into a wide smile, unable to hide her glee any longer. She thought the puns were hilarious, while every pony else just groaned at the sound of them.
Twilight, stop. Even Fluttershy's tired of them,
said Applejack.
Well,
stuttered Fluttershy. She bowed her head.
It's true. I don't like them,
she croaked in a raspy voice. Twilight looked at Fluttershy.
Fine, I'll stop, but you will owe me one.
With a final groan, the ponies silently made their way through the forest and to the beach, lest they talk and spur more puns from Twilight. They finally made their way out of the forest and into the sandy beach area. Nearby was a tall cliff overlooking the blue water. It could almost be considered a mountain, had it not been over the water. Twilight started to smile and the water section of the dictionary flooded into her mind.
Hey look, it's the ocean,
she yelled.
Every pony wave!
Before the ponies could groan, Twilight was already on to her next pun.
I'm sure we'll have a fun time here, but if you see a storm, we'll have to leave. I'm getting a little tongue-tied with all these puns, but they're cracking me up.
I shall not bait any longer. Let's go test the water.
Twilight, stop, said a bemused Applejack.
Well, I guess I could, but what are we going to do? This trip has no purpose if I can't make puns.
Seriously, Twilight, it's getting old,
said Rarity. Peer pressure has no effect on me. No pony likes your puns, said Rainbow Dash. I eel a little bad making all these puns, but what are you going to do?
The ponies gave up. There was no stopping Twilight. Suddenly, Spike came running through the forest and into the beach, holding a letter from Celestia. He had hair above his lip.
Twilight, I must ask you a question, he exclaimed. Alright, what is it? Did you see Celestia about sending the dress to Neptune? Dresses on Neptune? It's freezing up there, exclaimed Rarity. What is going on, Twilight? Nothing, Rarity. I just wanted to have the coolest outfits.
Spike and Twilight broke out into laughter. Rarity started to giggle and it eventually grew into a laugh. Rainbow Dash, Pinkie Pie and Applejack all joined in, finding the humor in the pun. Fluttershy remained silent.
What's wrong, Fluttershy? You didn't find it funny?
Asked Twilight after she had finished laughing.
I did, but I don't really want to laugh,
said Fluttershy. She paused for a moment.
Because I'm a little horse.
Hello and welcome back to Common Thomas Visual Pony, where we'll remind you that you can support Pony and Wolf Productions through the links down in the description below. Every dollar helps, is needed and very much appreciated. And now, oh my god, let's get into the meat of this. As you will see in my behind the scenes video that is coming tomorrow and as I really hope that you will watch, I'm a huge fan of Ellie in The Last of Us and her pun book. And when I saw this story that simply says that Twilight finds a book of puns and starts using them to every pony's dismay, I just could not resist. And from start to finish, it's funny. It's just something completely random. But also this finisher at the end here.
Because I'm a little horse.
Oh, God. That was just priceless. I like it. So I'm going to give it an upvote. And I hope that you guys will also give this author a bit of love. Let's actually see, when was this author last seen? Oh, that's been a few years. Since 2013 they haven't been on FimFiction. Sadly. Anyhow, still go over there, give them some love. You know? You never know. You never know. So, sincerely yours, Visual Pony, I'm signing off and I hope that this video finds you well in body and mind.